Andor's Ghorman Massacre arc is a masterpiece, but what if I told you it's not just because of the story, but for the hidden details that creator Tony Gilroy carefully put into every episode? For instance, how the rebels wear warm colors like orange, red, and yellow, while the Empire wears cold whites and blues. And how Mon Mothma sheds her blue cloak after her legendary speech in the Senate, and Andor replaces it with an orange one, saying,
"Welcome to the rebellion."
Or how Cyril, during the Ghorman Massacre, wears an orange jacket, signaling his disillusionment with the Empire. These touches are deliberately placed by the filmmakers, and once you see them, you can't unsee them. And once you notice them, you can't help but wonder, why? What are the filmmakers trying to say with these touches? There's many hidden details present in the Ghorman Massacre arc that really unifies what Andor is trying to say about rebellion. For example, how the rebels in Andor represent fire. I've talked about this theme a lot in my other videos, and in this arc, the trend continues. One way this is shown is in the costumes. On Ferrix, for example, the people wear lots of oranges, reds, and yellows. Conversely, the Empire wears colder clothing that's either blue, white, or black most of the time. This is a color trend that's appeared with people from Ferrix, Aldhani, Mina Rao, and now Ghorman. Even in the Narkina 5 jail, where inmates wear white jumpsuits, there's orange accents present in the clothing, hinting at the rebellious fire burning inside these inmates who are currently going through hell. In episode 7 of season 2, Mon talks to the Ghorman senator, who wears orange clothing underneath his blue cloak, hinting at the fact he's putting on a show for the Senate and stands with his people. 2 episodes later, he's arrested. And like I said in the intro, after Mon makes her legendary speech to the Senate, she sheds her blue cloak and Andor puts on an orange one, saying, "Welcome to the rebellion." Empire security agents at Senate checkpoints wear all blue. ISB folks wear all white. K2SO droids, the representation of the ruthlessness of the Empire, are all black, just like what Captain Kaido and other various Empire minions wear. And in one of my favorite examples of this double-sided theme playing out, Cyril wears an orange coat during the Ghorman Massacre and throughout this arc as a whole, which makes sense for his character, given how he finally wakes up to the evil of the Empire in this arc. There's other examples of this in the props and set design. For example, how this ISB operation room where they try to stop Mon from giving her speech sports a cold blue color scheme, or how Mon is represented as a red dot amongst other blue dots on this display of senators the ISB is listening in on. She's represented as a red dot here because she just smashed her listening device. She is heating up, about to show her true colors to the Senate and the Empire. Mon wears lots of blues, whites, and golds throughout the series, and even her Empire-owned residence in Season 1 is all white. If you think about Mon, she's been hiding in plain sight all this time, which makes sense why Andor creators dressed her in whites and blues. She's blending in. Now, as she's about to publicly come out in support of the rebellion with her speech, she sheds these cold colors, which is a physical representation of how she's coming out of hiding for the rebellion. During the Ghorman Massacre episode, locals wave flags of green, orange, and yellow colors, and if you look closely, smoke rises from the Ghorman crowd in the moments leading up to the massacre. They are smoldering. In the build-up, we spot Molotov cocktails being handed out in the crowd, the first time we've ever seen these in a Star Wars show. And later, when they're thrown at Imperial soldiers, fire splashes and spreads in the plaza. During the Ghorman Massacre itself, sparks fly everywhere as blaster shots bludgeon the walls of the plaza. I already established in my Season 1 analysis that Cassian and the people of Ferrix are represented both physically and metaphorically as a spark of the rebellion.
Tell him none of this is his fault. It was already burning, he's just the first spark of the fire.
Now, in the most defining moment of the rebellion so far, sparks fly everywhere as blaster fire is flung through the air. There's a really good shot of Cyril walking into the plaza in episode 8, and some dude sparks up something right in front of him. As if that wasn't enough, every time we're in the hangar on Yavin 4 in this episode, sparks fly everywhere as rebels work on their ships. If you're still not convinced, let me direct your attention to various spoken references to fire in these episodes.
Dragging you out there, for what? Help him torch the place?
It's not like that.
It's the Empire with the torches. They've gone insane.
In episode 8, before the Ghorman Massacre, the TV reporter says,
"Local insurgents spread rumors through the night and have organized this highly volatile insurrection you see behind me now."
This isn't the first time that the rebellion has been compared to volatility. In episode 5 of season 2, rhydonium is used as a metaphor for rebellion itself. This highly volatile material that burns your skin and your insides if you get too close to it.
We're the Rhino, kid! We're the fuel! We're the thing that explodes when there's too much friction in the air!
During the Aldhani arc, the Eye of Aldhani, which is also a metaphor for rebellion, is a celestial event where crystals swarm the atmosphere, heat up, and explode. That sounds pretty volatile to me, and Nemec says that from the ground it's beauty, but in the sky it's chaos. So this TV reporter calling Ghorman's in the Square a highly volatile insurrection fits perfectly with this overarching theme of fire and burning that's been shown to appear throughout the entirety of Andor.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
And then finally we have Drina sending a message over the radio after the massacre, in possibly the most emotional part of the episode.
The Empire built this fire. They made this fire and led us to the slaughter.
By the way, I just published a bonus analysis on my Substack about a hidden cattle motif in Andor that I've never talked about before. Cattle prods, feeding tubes, and how the Empire literally treats people like livestock. I'll be posting extra analysis like this weekly over there if you want to subscribe. The link is in the description. Another common thing we've talked about at length is one of history, specifically history repeating itself, the rewriting of history, and the forgetting of history. There's one key instance in this arc where history repeats itself, and that is, of course, the Ghorman Massacre. In the previous arc, Cassian and Cyril learn that 16 years ago, Grand Moff Tarkin landed his cruiser in the middle of the Palmo Plaza, killing 500 peaceful demonstrators. They erected a monument in honor of this tragedy, which we see throughout these Ghorman episodes. Then, 17 years later, in the exact same spot that Grand Moff Tarkin killed 500 demonstrators, the Ghorman Massacre takes place. Another interesting detail is that in episode 7, the Empire puts barricades around this monument so nobody can get near it. I see this as yet another example of the Empire trying to separate people from their own history, their own identity. In that same episode, the Ghorman rebels are seen fighting amongst themselves in their hideout, and Lazine bursts in, lamenting about how the Empire is driving them apart, saying, Lazine has another beautiful moment in episode 8 where, as he slowly understands what's about to happen, he sings the Ghorman national anthem to try and calm the situation down. The crowd joins him, and for a brief moment, we see the temperature of the mob drop as the Ghors sing together, remembering exactly who they are. It reminds me of the Rix Road arc in Season 1, where the people of Ferrix play their music at Marva's funeral. At one point, we see Bix leaning her head against the window from her Imperial cell, listening, remembering. Why is music so important in this show? Before every episode, we hear a different version of the Andor theme played during the title sequence. It's normally the same tune, just played with different instruments. In fact, in episode 9, we can hear the echoes of the Ghormans singing over top of the Andor theme during this title sequence. So, why all this attention to music? One guess is that music can be such a uniting force, as we see in the Ghorman Massacre episode when Lazine starts singing. It's infectious, it spreads like a fire until everybody wants to join in, occurring spontaneously. It kind of reflects what Nemec says in his manifesto.
Freedom is a pure idea. It occurs spontaneously and without instruction.
Nemec also says that the frontier of the rebellion is everywhere. This makes sense for our analysis of Andor's main title sequence. Every planet has their own customs and culture, and playing the Andor theme with different instruments is a great way to show all the different frontiers of the rebellion. They might play with different instruments, but they're all playing the same theme of rebellion. Successful rebellions, like we talked about in our Season 2 Arc 1 analysis, requires teamwork. It requires finding harmony together to fight back against a common enemy. Music is a great way to show how different people, i.e. sounds, can come together to do just that. I also think music is tied to history, memory, and even identity. When you hear a song from your childhood that you loved, what happens? For a moment, that song takes you back in time, and you remember a certain feeling you once had. Songs become part of us, helping shape us into who we are today. I love this shot of Dylan crying while singing the Ghorman national anthem here. Music stirs our emotions, our feelings, and like I talked about in the previous arc's analysis, feeling is a huge motif in this show and Star Wars in general. Whether it's a Jedi Padawan being told to trust their feelings and instincts, or the Empire's aversion to feeling anything at all, resulting in rigid coldness. Captain Kaido is a great manifestation of this inability to feel. Even Dedra, after the massacre, breaks down into tears, but Captain Kaido looks directly at the massacre happening in real time and smiles. He is completely disconnected from any ability to feel at all. The K2SO droids are another great manifestation of the Empire's ruthlessness. When they come out of the smoke here and start throwing people around like ragdolls, it's terrifying. They are mindless killing machines that don't feel anything. It mimics Darth Vader to a certain extent, who is as great a symbol of the Empire as any. Obi-Wan said that Vader is more machine than man, and it's Vader's ability to feel that saves his son from being killed by Emperor Palpatine and redeems his character in the process. We talked about colder, lifeless colors being used by the Empire, and perhaps another way we can analyze that is through the lens of feeling, of being human. Red, orange, and yellow colors are the colors of warmth, of being alive. If you spend too much time in the cold, though, what happens? Your fingers and toes go numb, and you lose that ability to feel. It reflects what the Empire does. They write their own history. They create narratives that paint people as barbaric, dangerous, and less than human, like they did with the Ghormans. They put themselves at the top of the hierarchy and everybody else down below, justifying atrocities and pitting people against one another. And when the Empire starts up the propaganda machine against the Ghormans, senators and imperial subjects alike see them as almost less than human. They are unable to feel and connect with them as human beings. Using music as a metaphor for humanity, memory, and the importance to feel seems like a feasible theory in this Andor analysis. In my last arc analysis, I talked about how the Empire uses propaganda to create a false reality, writing history however they see fit. History and memory is a very common focus in Andor. It's telling that Luthen sells ancient artifacts from long-lost civilizations, for example, or how Nemik says,
"There's a growing list of things we've known and forgotten, things they've pushed us to forget. Things like freedom."
If you remember, the Empire tries to push the Aldanis out of their ancestral lands and stop them from making the pilgrimage to see the Eye of Aldani in the Sacred Valley. That's what the Empire does. They try to cut you off from your own history until all you remember is the Empire. Like Mon says in her speech,
Of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous.
and like she says about the death of truth being the ultimate victory of evil, the Empire wants to control all the narratives. They want complete power, not just over the galaxy, but over history as we know it. We hear spoken references to this theme many times in the Ghorman Massacre arc, like when Partagaz tells Dedra,
"The only story that matters is Ghorman aggression."
And in that same conversation, he says,
"Our struggles with Ghorman are well documented at this point."
In episode 9, Bail Organa comes right out and says,
"The winner writes the story."
In her famous speech, Mon says she almost has no memories that predate her arrival to the Senate decades ago, and Bix tells the Force Healer that she doesn't remember not knowing Cassian. There's a really sneaky line that we hear while Clea removes the listening device from the Tinian Codex in episode 6.
Chevy words with memory. What's that revenge?
Revenge is a famous word in Star Wars lore, not just because episode 3 is called Revenge of the Sith, but because the original title of episode 6 was Revenge of the Jedi. In episode 7, as Wilman tries to convince Cassian to come with him to Ghorman, he says,
"She's there now and she's there waiting to be killed, and I know you're gonna say it's for revenge, but it's not."
It's like what Skeen says in the Aldani arc.
The axe forgets, but the tree remembers. Now it's our turn to do the chopping.
In these episodes, we see no better example of this than when Andor fights Cyril and asks him,
"Who are you?"
The lifeblood of rebellion is memory. remembering your history, the people you lost, and the way your oppressors abused their power. Thela remembers his father dying in the Tarkin massacre. This memory pushes him to fight back against the Empire, to seek revenge. It's ironic because revenge is a word mostly associated with the Sith in Star Wars lore, but in most meaningful examples of rebellion in this show, the rebels are consumed by their appetite for revenge. Another huge motif that relates to this is rumors. In episode 8 alone, there are so many spoken references to rumors that I'll play for you right now.
Rumors spread quickly these days.
Local insurgents spread rumors through the night.
There were mass curfew violations last night and rumors of a general strike this morning.
Rigs and droids.
It's a rumor! You tell me it's a rumor, and I will throw you out that window.
Rumor, aka a weapon of the Empire to label real events as fiction or create fiction out of thin air to fit their narrative. But what did Dedra say about rumors? They spread quickly these days, kind of like fire, which the rebels represent. Rumors are a tool of the Empire, but they're also the underground message system of the rebels. Speaking of messages, it's in this arc that another key theme of Andor comes into focus, and that's one of being a messenger. The Force Healer in episode 7 tells Bix that Cassian is a messenger and that there's somewhere he needs to be. Spoiler alert for Rogue One, but we know the message that Cassian needs to send is the Death Star plan. There are a few other references to messages in this arc that I'll play for you now.
Tell people what happened here, Cass.
Please mark this message and pass it forward.
I stand this morning with a difficult message.
And if you remember, Bix leaves a message for Cassian to watch after he wakes up the next morning, telling him she's gone. In Andor's second season, which focuses so much on propaganda and the death of truth, it's interesting that they also focus a lot on messages and messengers. So many times, it's messages that free the minds of the people in this show and lead directly to rebellion, whether it's the Doctor delivering the message to Kino Loy that the Empire fried a whole level, which leads to a prison break, or Marva's speech delivered in a hologram message to Ferrix that leads to rebellion, or Nemik's manifesto that Cassian safeguards and delivers to the galaxy, leading to even more rebellion. This is the same manifesto that, spoiler alert, Partagaz listens to just before offing himself in episode 12. In her legendary speech, Mon says,
When truth leaves us, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest.
It seems that this is the true heart of what Andor creators are trying to say with this throwaway show about a throwaway character from a throwaway Star Wars spin-off movie. This is the fight that we are in right now. We are in a fight to spread the truth, the real truth. Propaganda is all around us. Monsters screaming as loud as they can are all around us. Monsters that use fear of others and the threat of danger to bend the public to their will. In this show, we see how the media makes Ghormans out to be dangerous insurgents. We see Imperial security checkpoints in the Senate. And at the end of episode 8, as Edie and her friends watch the news and hear about the death toll on Ghorman, we hear the reporter say,
We're sure to learn a great deal more about what happened here today and the price we'll pay for our own safety.
This is how evil takes power. Emperor Palpatine used the conflict of the Clone Wars to seize more and more power, justifying that he needed it because it was a matter of emergency and security. Ben Franklin said, Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Mon says that the death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. That is the endgame. That is the whole game, in fact. And I suppose what Andor creators are trying to tell us, above all, is that the most heroic thing you can do is to be the messenger, spread the truth, speak truth to power, and be courageous enough to receive a message that might be hard to hear, that might break your entire worldview, but also might give you true freedom, and a true opportunity to choose your own destiny, instead of only having the appearance that you have control. I suppose the greatest achievement of this show about this messenger, Cassian Andor, is that it is, in and of itself, a message to all of us. A message reminding us to be the messenger in our own lives. A message reminding us to be open to messages that might break our worldview, and how they might feel dangerous or uncomfortable to hear at first, but that they're necessary for having actual freedom. A message to not trust everything people scream about on TV, to get on the ground, talk to people, feel, and let empathy win. Andor, a story about a messenger, is a message to all of us, and it's a very powerful one at that. What did you notice in the Ghorman Massacre arc? Let me know in the comments below. If you want more film analysis like this about prestige TV shows and movies, subscribe to my channel. I got big plans for 2026 and beyond. Thank you so much for watching.